Hi everyone, Irliana Samsara here, Star Sound Astrology, starsoundastrology.com. I'm here to talk to you about, in this video, October astrology. Boy, I have to tell you, we've got some good news coming up. It's not the crazy intensity that we had last month with the Virgo South Node eclipses and the Pisces full moon lunar eclipse. That was a rough one. However, we have new opportunities for healing and for getting into action. So the things that you've been gestating on, now that the eclipse is over, boom, boom, chakalaka, we can take action on it. There's going to be some outrageous opportunities coming up, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Irliana. I practice Western tropical astrology, and I use whole sign houses. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, my passion as an astrologer is to, of course, connect you with your cosmic blueprint, your destiny. I'm using astrology to help you understand your life's mission and to help you live a very powerfully transformed life. And of course, helping you navigate what is going on right now and what is ahead for you and how to best utilize those energies for your own personal growth and soul's evolution. So if that sounds cool to you, you're welcome to book a session, links below. So let's get into it. Okay. For our first up, the first thing I want to talk to you about today is the fact that we've got this, we are, yes, out of the eclipses. Mercury ruling the South Node in Virgo, right? He's finally out from under the beams of the sun in the first week of October. And so now the insights that were presented to us during that time of basically the whole month of September is now the insights will become clearer. You'll be able to see things more clearly because, of course, literally the sun is not blinding Mercury anymore. Now he's evening star. He can process, he can see clear. I can see clearly now, the beams have gone. And maybe not the rain is gone, but the beams of sun, right? No more blindness. Now you know where to go. And this is going to be a great month for getting things done. We have Venus going into her domicile in Libra and Mars in his domicile in the relational planets in his domicile in Scorpio. So they're going to be able to work very, very effectively. So this will be impacting our values, our financial situations, certainly with Mars in Scorpio, taking new action with Venus in going from Virgo into Libra. There is this desire for harmony and good relations and the ability to have powerful listening. So lots of great stuff here. Okay, and I would just say generally too, October is really about, we have this push with the full moon, which is Monday, the 6th of October. And then there's this with the new moon at the end of the month in Libra. It's the other way around, right? We got the Aries and then Libra, full moon, new moon. So it's like this, we have a bookend of being the push to something pops up, some new direction taken with the full moon in Aries. And then there's this rebalancing in Libra. Before it does that, though, Venus, which is, of course, the Libra season, Venus is the ruler. Venus has been conjuncting the South Node for the last few days. And that may have felt like a gentle nod of old patterns that are no longer necessary, especially around being nitpicky, being anxiety-ridden, being critical of self, critical of others and relationships. So there's this gentle nod to, let's not do that anymore. When the South Node the nodes are fateful, right? In Vedic astrology, they call them the invisible planets. They were considered invisible planets. So it's where the moon's path meets the Earth's path, the ecliptic, right? And so these are fated points. So when Venus conjuncts the South Node, it has to do with relationships. And so maybe, I think too, certainly, well, let me just say, so much trying to get it all down, right? I don't have to be perfect. Venus and South Node, just be as you are, right? So Venus in the South Node of Virgo can be about excessively looking at the details, counting the beans, the bean counter, right? And Venus is in her fall in Virgo. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to go to parties. She doesn't want to be that worker in the fields with that dirty apron picking beans or something. It's like the things that you have to do for practicality, It's certainly it speaks to practicality, but there is this meetup with the South Node is really saying, look, there it's gentle. Venus is gently reminding us that the way to go to relate to people is yes, being in humble service rather than feeling like I'm the overworked slave and I have to, you know, sacrifice something or compromise for the sake of efficiency. Well, yes, maybe you do, but to just perhaps bring some humility or some joy to that. I would think too, a great anecdote, a great antidote, sorry, would be to go into the forest. You know, Virgo is like, go sit with those gnomes that I was telling you about with that solar eclipse, man. The gnomes are in the house, you know, and they want us to relate to each other on a very grounded material realm, literally grounded, right? And being more accessible in a very authentic, sweet way. You know, you think about sitting in the forest where all the angry things that we might have held on to or resentments about relationships, oh, it softens, right? So being in nature, great antidote for this energy. October 11th, Venus is going to oppose Saturn in Pisces. So that's as she's finishing up her sojourn through Virgo. There's that opposition. So there's a tension about, you know, what is appropriate, what kind of foundations do I want to lay down now that I've given up being, say, nitpicky and anxiety ridden and mental, right? Mental, relating to others mentally. Now that that is past, you know, how do I take the best of that, you know, like being discerning and marrying that with what Saturn is calling us to do, which is to lay down new foundations in our lives, our belief system that are based on compassion, that are based on a more mystical, nonlinear expression of ourselves. So we're going to get some help with that this week. As she opposes Saturn, that's the opportunity for us, depending on where this is in your chart, is where this is going to be happening. So October 13th, she's ready. She leaves, she goes back into her home sign of Libra, ready for those new foundations that she kind of had an opportunity to have that chat with Saturn in that balancing act. By October 13th, she's ready. I was like, okay, this is the last time she's going to see the opposition with Saturn, I believe, because, you know, these are the final degrees of Saturn's 2.5 year journey through Pisces. So there's a lot of energy this month that speaks to wrapping things up, getting the healing, moving through these things as we prepare for next year, February 2026, outrageously new, as I've been sharing, new beginnings. And all of the transits that I'm going to be speaking about in this video and in the next several ones over the next few months are all speaking to, it's basically getting us all in line with everything that needs to happen for us to fully, authentically be a newer self, a part of ourselves that we've never seen emerge. So if you think of it like Sunday school or Sunday, I went to Catholic school, and you know, my mother would have us, we all had to put our Mary Janes on, we polished them with Vaseline jelly, we shined them, right? And we had to put our little anklets, the fancy ones with the lace, and we put on our Sunday hat and coat, and you know, we were just ready, right? We just had to be ready. And so it's just, I don't know why I just think of these things, right? I do pray before these things. You're saying, okay, tell me what I'm supposed to say. So, but anyway, it's just like that readiness, right? So all of these planets and planetary transits that are coming up are getting us ready. So that, and some of it's not easy, right? Some of it is just, it may bring up some painful memories, but I'm going to be talking about that in just a bit. But anyway, as Venus enters Libra for October 13th into the rest of the month, she'll be in Libra in her domicile. This is where she does really well. It's an air sign. It's about equality, harmony, peace, beauty, cultivating that, and being one's authentic self without compromising, right? There's the willingness to compromise, but not to give up all of who we are, you know, right? It's finding that perfect balance. So that sets us up for the rest of the month. Now, let's talk about the full moon. This full moon coming up on October 6th. It's in the sign of Aries, 14 degrees. It's ruled, of course, Aries is ruled by Mars. Well, for this lunation, let me see, I can pull this up here. Share the full moon. Okay, here we go. The full moon for Washington, D.C., it's taking place in the 10th house. But as you can see here, the Mars is being the ruler has now entered is firmly into the in his domicile in Scorpio, and Mercury has just joined it in time for the full moon. So this is of course, the 0 degree of any sign is a very powerful point. Contains all the potential of what can happen, and what can happen when Mercury's in Scorpio. Well, the amazingly intense, often dramatic, could be preceded by crisis that leads to a dramatic breakthrough and a reinvention of oneself, one's thoughts and one's thought processes. Especially with Mercury, it can also relate to education, to youth, to children. And there is, if and siblings, certainly, rules all these things. And transactions, like in the marketplace, buying and selling, those are all Mercury activities and such. So Mercury in Scorpio can reveal maybe some subconscious processes that are very difficult. Maybe they're painful or they're taboo and they're scary, but this is the opportunity to look at these things and where have we been muffling ourselves? Where have we been afraid to make us to really face things? And sometimes, yes, it can be very, very scary. When look, who wants to deal with painful subjects, right? What are the most painful subjects? Sex, death, and taxes. Those are such taboo subjects because why? They relate to the unknown. So this Scorpio, the invitation with Mercury and Mars traveling pretty close together for this first part of this month is very much about this being willing with the drive and the courage with Mars, the courage to confront these painful topics and of Scorpio subjects. So wherever that is in your chart is going to be huge. And because of course we have the grand water trines coming up at the end of the month, and and I'll talk more about that in depth in just a moment, but this is a very powerful, the sign of Scorpio is very, very loud this month, not just because the sun goes into Scorpio on the 22nd, but because there's this grand water trine and it's making this contact, one planet after the other. We've got Mercury, Mars, Mercury, Venus, the sun. Mercury's going to swing back and forth there into December at this critical late point in Scorpio. So there's a lot of purging and emotional healing that can take place. It's going to be really, really great for us to be able to move and break through the deepest, scariest fears of manipulation, fears of being dominated and controlled, or where have we done that? Where have we treated others with vindictiveness and vengefulness, perhaps? So we look at these dark sides, but to say, look, not judging it, just saying, okay, here it is in the light of day. The sun in Scorpio at the end of the month is going to shine the light of day on these subjects. So it's going to be an enormously great, if we are willing to confront our fears, we have an enormously great opportunity to reprogram ourselves. So that is certainly coming to light with the full moon in Aries, because the full moon, something comes to completion, right? So what is coming to completion? Something that needs to be spoken with that co-presence with Mercury. Maybe there's some scary taboo subjects with family members, people in our life that need to be spoken. There's a new powerful you that wants to come out. And this is a great full moon to clear and confront things, right? In a compassionate kind of way. A new powerful you, clearing and confronting doesn't have to mean, bludgeoning somebody with the truth, right? It can be standing strong and standing courageous for ourselves, standing for our authentic selves. So you're going to, we can use this to clear and create a new you, more powerful you, so that when the new moon comes in Libra at the end of the month, hey, guess what? We're already our authentic selves. We've got a handle on that, and we can realign with what you want, planting the new seeds of Libra relationships and relating. And so we are doing it from a very powerful place of having, say, spoken our truth about sensitive subjects or deep subconscious patterns, being able to see these things for what they are, we can then take that into this new moon cycle at the end of the month. So this is about speaking up, reclaiming a boundary, maybe taking a risk in a direction that you feel called to take a risk, right? Because Mars is all about risk taking and courageous conviction, right? Passion, to initiate and change, right? It's initiate. This is a cardinal sign. So this is what is a new beginning, a new change of direction. Okay, so then moving on, we have Pluto is going after what, May? It's been what, May, June, July, August, September, 5 months, almost 6 months. It does take half the year to retrograde. Well, it's going to station direct October 13th, 14th, depending on your time zone, at 1 degree of Aquarius. So it stopped at 3 degrees, went back to 1. And now, what's interesting now is that there's so much, and I'm going to probably make another video about Pluto out of bounds, but as in the middle of all that retrograde, Pluto went out of bounds at the end of August, about August 20th. What does that mean? A planet that goes out of bounds is, if you think of a car going down a lane or a highway, crossing over those lines that they're, quote, supposed to travel in. And that's a natural sway as we drive, and our car wheels sway naturally, right? And so to the planets, and they'll go out of declination, which is outside the path of the ecliptic, the path around the sun. And so when it does, it goes out as 23 degrees, 26 minutes. If you want to get on Jeopardy and, that question, out of bounds planets for 100, and you will win because I told you. Anyway, who said astrology had to be stuffy? Not me. All right. So back to Pluto. Pluto out of bounds is it's going above and beyond its normal range. So there is this opportunity for Pluto is already the obsessive planet, right? The planet that it can be compulsive and obsessive. Well, then he goes out of bounds and it's like, oh my God, like this to me is another example of this outrageous transformation that is happening in our collective consciousness and in humanity. It's just another piece of this puzzle, which speaks to radical transformation, like life as we know it is over. And that can be a good thing. Yes, it's scary, like how far is AI going to go, things like that. But it also has the seeds for outrageous transformation. And so Pluto going direct October 13th, 14th, this is a very rare out of bounds, right? I had to say, this is the first time we're seeing Pluto direct out of bounds. All right. So this is an opportunity to whatever insights and internal processes that we've been working through for the last several months, especially go look at where Aquarius, what house Aquarius rules in your chart. Wherever that is, what has been internalized emerges into our government and social systems. So, we the people is a very Pluto and Aquarius thing. Power returns Pluto, right? Power, control. Who's got the power? Power goes back to the people, just like it did with the French Revolution. The center cannot hold, right? There was Louis the 14th, and boom, he was out of a job. One day it just got to be too much, and people were like, enough, right? And so, yes, it's connected with revolution and transformation, and it's not just. It can be a revolution on the inner, right? With Pluto in retrograde, it's where is this revolution taking place in our ideas and the structure of our ideas and how we hold reality is a great example. The whole thing with Jimmy Kimmel that happened, right? It's like, oh, there was this censorship of being shut down because he said something that somebody didn't like, and forgetting that, hey, you know what? Hello, free speech here, First Amendment. And so power returning to the people, it caused such an outrage that droves of people started canceling their Disney subscriptions and such. So they were showing their powers. Great example, right? No matter where you feel the rightness or wrongness of whatever happened, the idea being power returning to the people, they stood up, they said, this isn't right. And then he got his show back. So we might feel in our own lives a surge to manifest change, assert power, reconfigure the control in our lives, that we are not observers, we are participants. And sometimes we forget. And so this retrograde has been good to say, hey, you know what? We have the power. Just like when Dorothy in Oz, she looked down at her shoes and, she needed a little nudge from Glinda to say, girl, you've got the power. You always did. You didn't have to go looking, walking through, doing this whole movie, It's like you had it all along, right? So to participate in your transformation, not to wait for an outside authority like the wizard to give it to you. And so this is our ruby slipper moment where all these insights that we have been thinking about and contemplating, and maybe crises that have come along in our own lives, we get to see this as, wait a minute, I do have power. I have agency here. And what would life be like if I were to exercise that? And it's time now that we bring these insights out as Pluto goes direct. We bring it out into the world. We bring it out into the social systems. So one other movie reference. I just thought with all this, remember Dirty Dancing? Nobody puts baby in a corner. Maybe that's what Jimmy thought, certainly many of us. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Wait a minute, you don't get to talk to us like that. We are our own selves. So we have the power. Pluto and Aquarius, right? Power to the people. All right, Sun in Scorpio. October 22nd, the Sun leaves which is in its the Sun is exalted in Aries and it's in its fall in Libra. Well, now the Sun leaves its fall and goes into the sign of Libra. I'm sorry, leaves Libra and goes into the sign of Scorpio. This is again another way the universe is saying, keep on shining those lights on emotional healing. Go deep into those scary recesses. And at the same day, Neptune is retrograde, crosses back one last time until, into 29 Pisces. This is the last time we're going to see it. When it goes direct in a few months and then crosses back one more time right in February, that'll be the last time in 164 years that anybody sees Neptune in Pisces. That's how big it is, right? Very, very outer planet, takes 164 years to come through the zodiac. So this is definitely the end of an age. The Sun coming into the dark recesses of the Scorpio archetype, transformation through crisis. The crisis is the foundation for renewal and resilience and a reinvention and a regeneration and a resurrection, right? First, you confront the fear, but then you come out the other side. Neptune in Pisces, singing along in that chorus, intensifies that plunge. This is about the inner psyche, taboos, suppressed emotions. Where have we been kidding ourselves? Our belief system, the illusions that we've had. Certainly joining back up again with Saturn, right? Saturn and Neptune together. There's it being in a water sign, and the Sun's in a water sign. We're getting a grand water trine. We got Neptune, you got Jupiter, and you got all those personal planets, bing, 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 coming through in Scorpio. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of psychic energy, sensitive, intuitive feelings, insights, these visioning, right? This is going to get us really going. And the heightened sensitivity of water cannot be underestimated, because this is going to be this grand water trine with the outer Jupiter, Saturn, and then all the little parade of personal planets coming through Scorpio. That's going to be the final, what he was saying, this is like an incredible portal of transformation to deal with our emotions and to come home to ourselves, to our true selves, and constructing a reality that takes in our feelings and our intuition. Whereas in all these years, we've had this male-dominated culture of a toxic male, not the strength, all the great potential that the male energy can bring has really been very, very challenged, right? So this is an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We have to embrace these toxic archetypes and say, we can move past these things. We don't have to be, and we certainly don't want to be building our new future on these antiquated concepts and time being linear, and or the belief that it is, and just to move past all of these preconceived notions or societal conditioning that had us believe that, this is the way it is. So we are getting ready for this grand water trine. And when you think too about Scorpio, the shadow side of Scorpio, it's a fixed sign, it's fixed water. So the shadow that we have to confront is stagnation. Where in our lives has there been this stagnation, and how would that affect us? What would it be like if we moved past that and acknowledged it for what it was and got to see that this was an opportunity, that there is, what does the Kabbalah say? There's light waiting to be revealed. That darkness is simply light waiting to be revealed. And so when we lean into it in that way, we see it we are not controlled by it. We don't have to be in fear of it. We can actually use it instead of it using us. We use it to reprogram ourselves and get ourselves ready for a huge level, this incredible transformation that is coming next year. So, yes, so basically the final big transit is this series of grand water trines. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Let me see, the new moon Libra. Let me get this strand, grand water trine. Where did I put that thing? Let me pull up okay, this is the new moon in Libra. Just give me a moment here. Okay. And these are really, really special. I'm very excited about what we are going to be seeing here. So let's get this over here. And we got this aspect. So as you can see, this is the Mercury is the first one to create that trine. Mars very close to it. Mercury and Mars traveling together. They're buds. It's like, let's be brave and bring up painful subjects. Let's be brave and stand in our power and not be afraid to the responsibility it takes to be that powerful person, to be that healer, to be that shaman. I always consider the Scorpio as the sign of the shaman, the one who confronts his own ego death, right? And then in doing so, transforms himself and then can help others, just like the shaman. After having confronted his own ego death, he can then assist others through that gateway. And so we have an enormous opportunity here. See here the water trines. We've got Saturn and Neptune together again in water, late degrees. Late degrees is always about a completion. There's something that's coming to a head that's completing, and they're all water. So this is about emotions, psychic sensitivity, intuition, the bravery it takes to think from these deep places and to confront crisis. Because let's be honest, the Scorpio archetype, this is about, it's not easy, right? If any of you Scorpio risings, you all know, you know how it's especially the Scorpio rising. If there's anybody, Alan Oken, said this in his book, The Rulers of the Horoscope. He said, if anybody had anything, if there was any one sign that was the most, probably the most difficult in the zodiac, he said it was Scorpio rising. And I pretty much agree with him. Of course, depending on where Mars is and what sign and house it's in your chart will tell the story. But the fact is, the design of Scorpio is crisis precedes transformation. Crisis precedes transformation. So many of us get stuck on the crisis mode and the drama. Do you know what he said to me? I'm gonna get, nobody's gonna do that to me. And so we get so caught on that and the unindividuated self that we fail to see that it's all happening for a damn good reason. And it involves a death, an ego death, in order to completely, fully let go. And we can't see it. We have to just go deep into that darkness and know that we can move through this. And so we have Mercury close. First, Mercury passes the gauntlet, right? Then he passes it right on to Mars a few days later. Let me pull up my notes here. Yes, Mars. So about October 23rd or so, Mercury, the thinking planet, thinking, relations, communications, some deep subjects to be broached that may have been in secret, that may have been suppressed, right? This is an opportunity for healing, trining Jupiter and Cancer. So there's thinking, wisdom, and the lords of karma and dharma are all aligned in a flow. Trines are of the nature of Jupiter, so there's an enormous flow and an enormous ability to transform and bring a lot of huge amounts of healing. I mean, just massive. Like this is so necessary for next February when we have Saturn meeting up with Neptune in Aries. There's a whole new world beginning. And Mars, 5 days later, Mars comes along there, right? So there's Mars. And then we have, as you can see here, then the sun's going to come over there. The sun's not going to be there. That's not there till November. So I'll talk about that next month. But the sun, but just to give you the heads up, then Venus will get there around Thanksgiving weekend, making that trine. So we have the sun, Mercury retrograde, right? First, Mercury now, the 23rd. Then he comes back over there because he's going to retrograde. He's going to go back over there right around Thanksgiving and then forward again in December 6th. So yeah, like pretty outrageous stuff there. Our thinking minds, our bravery, our courage, our goals, our ambitions with Mars. So it's Mercury, Mars, and then the sun illuminating and amplifying the life force, the ability to regenerate and reinvent oneself using cosmic wisdom, using with patience and wisdom and planning. Like, what do we want to do? Saturn Pisces, what are your dreams for the long term? So incorporating all that. And then of course, Venus will be coming along there, but we'll save that for another day. You know, Venus coming in through there in Scorpio. So that'll definitely impact relationships or personal relationships and love and relationships and all the Venusian things. So yeah, so we certainly have a very potent month, not the crazy, intense smack upside the head of eclipse season. We've settled down, and if we just go deep into these spaces this month, we can make so much, we can use these opportunities to evolve and grow so much. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, just give it a like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you plan to do. And do you have any planets in these late degrees where the grand water trine is? Let me know and we'll talk. So, all right, everyone, have a great one. And I will see you next time. This is Irliana Samsara, Star Sound Speaks, starsoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Namaste.